Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. This is another episode of the Online Hustle podcast. Today we have Donald, the founder of Jungle, with us. Here's a little wave.
Morning, Lewis. How are you?
And today we're just going to be talking about international expansion, Amazon, the pivots from an established business into the world of the Amazon agencies. So let's get right down to it. I think from the top, if you can just give us a rundown of where you started, where you've ended up, and, you know, from being a corporate solicitor, doing mergers and acquisitions and venture capital, how did you really pivot into this industry?
Sure. So starting in the city, I didn't really enjoy law. It wasn't really my cup of tea. I also, I think, looking back, have a pathological hatred of being told what to do, which won't come as a surprise to members of my family and particularly my wife. And also just not wanting to work for other people, wanting to air an office with my own brow, and have control over my day and what I'm doing. I was ambitious, and I wanted to own my own business and businesses going forward.
So we've obviously got a bit of background as to what you did and then how you started out with frozen yogurt in particular. So the move from corporate law.
Move to frozen yogurt was completely by chance. It was a trip to New York with one of my buddies who had similar aspirations to myself. We saw frozen yogurt in New York. It was a cool, trendy food concept at that time there. We thought we would bring it over, and that's what we did. We left our city jobs, started that. That was the first taste of retail that I had. And life on the high street with bricks and mortar stores was really tough. It was successful for a time,
yeah.
But I quickly realised that the online way of doing business was definitely the future. So when we exited from Frey, I started online businesses, retail focused, and the rest is history.
Nice. So it was an idea you saw on a trip. You saw that maybe the US, New York in particular, was a bit more health focused. We didn't have something like that in the UK. And you started that in London, right?
London, 2009 in Islington, first shop. And then we grew up to, I think we had about 15 units in the end.
Oh, wow.
We had partnership with Topshop, which was fantastic. Yeah. We had a wonderful concession at Heathrow Terminal 5. So it was an excellent education in retail generally. But as I said, bricks and mortar was becoming very difficult after the first few years of trading. You know, rents were going up, rates were going up, staff costs were going up, product costs were going up. So I wanted to move online, and I learned the ropes on Amazon with my own products. And then I was being asked what I was doing on Amazon, how I was doing it. Can you help with my brand? Can you help with my business? And Jungle was born simply from that, and not wanting to, do favors for free for pals and pals of pals. And Jungle now is, a pretty mid-sized business now. We've got about 15 guys that work for us. We've got lots of brands, big, medium, small. And we really focus on Amazon as a platform. We don't cover any other channels. We specialize in the ad side of things because growth on Amazon is the big challenge, growth and profitability. And we've got a very good team. We're good at what we do.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like there's obviously a dynamic shift, and you see, as you said, that trend of people being a bit more health focused in the US and then bringing that over to the UK. 2009 is a crazy time to start, straight after the economic crisis as well. So
yeah,
you can imagine that costs were going up at that time. So what was it in particular? Was it just the rising costs, and then you were like, there's got to be a different way of doing this? Did you kind of have both businesses running simultaneously, or was it a hard to one?
Hard stop to the retail bricks and mortar concept. It's too hard. And I feel sorry for any businesses, and particularly, restaurants and pubs and all the rest of it, because their fixed costs are so high. and it's really tough. Retail is tough, but the lessons learned, as I said, were directly applicable to the online world. Retail is detail. It's the old adage, and it rings true. You've got to really pay attention to your products, your target demographic, your customer, and if you work with the right growth partner, whether that's on Amazon or any of the other platforms, your D2C, Shopify, then you can make it very successful.
So how do you take that experience that you got from starting a successful retail bricks and mortar business, and then how do you apply maybe some of those same experiences, that same knowledge into growth behind Amazon?
Very, very good question. I don't think there's an awful lot of one of the best pieces of advice I was ever given is business is a practitioner's art. So if you're in high street retail, then you learn the ropes on high street retail. Retail is the same in terms of, as I mentioned, your target demographic. You've got to have a good product.
Yeah.
But the online world is very different, and Amazon specifically is very different. And I had to learn the ropes on Amazon to get to where I am now. Certainly, as a growth partner and founder, because you can learn a lot from having lots of staff and lots of different stores and traveling a lot. But from an online retail perspective, you just need to. You can be a one-man band on a laptop.
Yeah.
You don't need a lot of the experience and know-how that I picked up on the high street, but there is definitely aspects of the high street model that I can take to the online world. And as I said, you've got to have a great product, whether you're online or whether you're on the high street, and you've got to know your customer, and you've got to know what you're selling and why you're selling it to them.
And now that you've got that third-person perspective from being an agency and helping other brands expand and scale, could you give us an example of a time when you recognize that somebody is making a critical mistake that maybe they don't recognize it themselves because it's their own brand, it's their baby, and they're like, I'm doing everything perfect, which is often the issue that a lot of sellers fall into. Can you think of an example where you can pinpoint, mate, guys, you need to do this better because you're currently not optimizing this specific thing? And then when they've implemented that change, they've seen huge growth on the tail.
Absolutely. I think whenever a customer comes to us, a client rather, and they've maybe hit they've plateaued, their growth plateaued. Our job is to carry out a full kind of investigation into what they're doing. I think the main thing is to reverse engineer their conversion weaknesses. So what are they doing? What are they doing right? What aren't they doing? From a listing perspective, if you're sending traffic to your ASIN store page, your product pages or your storefront, and the content and the creative hasn't been optimized and isn't best practice for the platform, you're simply not going to convert. So you can have as many impressions, as many clicks as you like. And the Amazon algorithm ultimately rewards you for conversion. Yeah. So we will look at what has been working, and if not a lot has been working, we've got our own system whereby we'll go in, we will right from the bottom up, get the inventory planning organized, work on titles, descriptions, creative. What does your A+ look like? What does the storefront look like? And then I think the big, certainly the biggest problem that most sellers will have, it's the marketing side of things, and then the ads. So from my perspective, most of them don't have a plan. They you will only grow on Amazon and any other platform if you have a really strong PPC plan, and that is a very complicated structure of campaigns, and making sure that you're pushing the product out to general segments. So, for example, general keywords. Whatever your product is, there will be general ways that the customer will search for that product. Mm-hmm. But also then, as you rise and you've got competitors bidding on your branded terms, you need to defend your space on Amazon as well. And then that blend and having a successful blend is what will ultimately lead to your success.
How do you see that's changing now? Because obviously over the last year in particular, I know there's been a lot of changes on Amazon in the way that people search for things. And now with the advent of AI and how that's come into it, you don't necessarily just have to search, I want blue trainers. It's like, I want something that covers my feet. There's maybe blue color leather. And you can be a lot more specific. And then the AI search results are going to come up with something that hopefully is more specific to your exact needs. So how do you see the change happening for people now that we've got things where, like AI semantics in search, is that changing the way that people create their listings? Or
so I think you need to be up to speed on how best to optimize for things like Rufus, for example, which is the specific Amazon AI tool. Rufus is great for people, as you say, that don't know exactly what they're looking for. And Rufus, in my elementary understanding, scrapes the USPs, features, benefits from products that match the general search. I think on Amazon, with the search bar being right at the top, that controls pretty much if you were searching for, as you say, trainers or coffee cups or argan oil or whatever it is. If you haven't mastered how to place your product at the top of Amazon search by way of the organic search, but also the paid search, then you're not going to go anywhere. And that's one of the biggest challenges. It's an expensive challenge in some categories because, every product is different. Some will be more competitive than others, but you have to have embedded keywords in and around all your listings, your storefront, your creative, and that's the best way that you can harness all these AI tools and the search functions on Amazon to put your product in front of the ultimate customer and hopefully get that conversion.
And yeah, that's key, isn't it? And when we talk about people looking to expand as well, because obviously you've got search, which is going to work for the UK and maybe a US audience, because our buyer trends and dynamics tend to be very similar. But then when you start to look overseas, you start to look into Europe, France, Germany, and like the ways that these different countries operate.
Yeah.
Obviously, people have got to then tailor the way that their products are listed, the things that they say in them.
Yeah.
Germany tends to be a lot more description oriented about this coffee cup is going to make your life better by 10% because it's made out of fine porcelain china, and they're a lot more specific with the key nitty gritty details of what the product is. Whereas somebody who is, I'm generalizing, but somebody who's maybe Spanish or Italian is more about the lifestyle aspects of it. And I'm going to feel better because I'm drinking coffee with my family, and these are mugs that you can share. And there's different ways that different countries have you tapping into the biodynamics in specific countries. Do you see that that's something that maybe people get wrong when they're looking to expand overseas?
Definitely. Very challenging. I think there's probably 3 points in this equation. The first is search behavior. So every product in every marketplace will be searched for in a different way, whether that's the US and the UK, regional differences, or you've got translated keywords when you're just barking up the wrong tree with how you're pushing the product, or you're how you're describing the product in your titles. If you don't get the search behavior correct right from the beginning, you're not going to succeed. I think the next thing on the list for me would be ensuring that the listing has been localized. So your titles and descriptions are in a local tone of voice. So if it's an American brand, you want the listing to look like and read like it has been written by somebody in the UK.
What's that?
I think it's to do with trust, and if you align with your
you can trust those good old Brits, can't you?
Well, hopefully, I think we do. I would say, well, as Brits are pretty good. The thing is, on Amazon specifically, the main benefits of the platform, as you I'm sure well know, are the trust element and the fulfillment side of things, because you can get everything very quickly. But I do think that if you're on Amazon, Amazon put sellers through their paces with the compliance aspect of if you're selling a product, you need to have the credentials to back up its origin, its quality, and then I think as I said, this alignment with the local expectations. So again, price. Are you putting a competitive offer? Is it way too expensive? Sometimes you'll see US brands that are on Amazon UK, and what is a $20 product in the US, because it's coming from the US to the UK, and perhaps it's not being housed in the UK. It'll be $50, £50 or £50. And then again, as I said, compliance side of things, the trust is there for the conversion, because if you don't convince the customer on any product with all the bits and bobs that I've just discussed, then you won't make that conversion. They'll be lukewarm on pressing the buy box button, and yeah, you're not going to go very far.
And I suppose some of that's come from your background with being in corporate law, being a corporate solicitor, and then transferring into the Amazon agency. You kind of get both sides of it. You get the legal side of it, and then you get the e-commerce side of it as well. So having that understanding of the different legalities, the different compliance points when people are moving overseas, it's often something that people overlook, because Amazon makes it really easy on the front end.
Yes.
So then when you start to move abroad, and maybe it's easy in your own native country, but then when you start to move abroad into different countries, and I'm tapping a lot into this because a lot of our audience are looking, maybe the US sellers expanded into the UK, EU, or UK worldwide, Saudi Arabia, wherever it might be. But it's very easy to overlook a lot of these things because you've maybe had a really good time in your own country, but you might be plateauing because you've reached the peak of what your product can do in your own country. So then when people starting to look overseas, they're thinking, right, let's go into France because maybe my products will sell well there, and maybe it will, but there's also a lot of stuff that they need to figure out on the back end to make sure that it does perform well in that market.
Definitely. Compliance is one thing that I think quite a few sellers will overlook. Amazon are very keen for successful brands in their local marketplace to expand. They will make that quite easy. But the bottom line is you can get into a lot of trouble with the local tax office, particularly the US, if you're not ticking all the boxes before you send stock to the local FBA center. You're going to get into bother eventually. You might be able to kind of trial the channel, sell a few units, but ultimately, and I've seen it many times before, you will eventually get a letter from the tax man, and they'll be asking for your credentials, your local tax numbers. And if you don't have those, they are very quick to then contact Amazon, and you can find your account suspended or even closed as a result. And if you've got a successful marketplace, say you're in the UK and you've got over to the US and you've cut corners, you can end up losing your UK business as a result of trying to penny pinch by possibly not putting the compliance infrastructure in place. And I've seen it before, and it's a real shame when people don't do that.
I think as well, some of it is maybe like oversimplified a little bit in the way that people see it, because Amazon run these promotions to incentivize people to open new VAT numbers in certain countries. So a couple of years back, they did Sweden. Obviously, they're incentivizing people so that they can use Amazon FBA centers in Sweden because that had just opened. So they're like, we need to get sellers in. We need to get people storing here. And the same thing last year with Ireland as well. But then once you open it, it's then I need to continue doing my reporting in these countries as well, even if I don't have any sales there, just to say, hey, Mr. Tax Office Man, I'm actually not selling anything at the moment. I just say people overlook that. And then the result of overlooking that is that your account can get suspended. You can end up with hefty fines. So it's something that people really need to make sure that they've got locked in from the beginning.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then obviously Jungle Agency emphasizes this process-driven strategy to boost sales. So what do you measure that tells you a client's Amazon business is fundamentally healthy rather than just riding a temporary wave of algorithmic luck?
Excellent question. I don't think you get much algorithmic luck if you onboard your products and you don't know what you're doing. I think that you really need to know what you're doing to be a success. And then when you do get to that point where you are selling lots of units, as you say, it can be very easy to get caught up in, all the marketing activities, pushing yourself too much on the spend side of things, on all your sponsored ads. The main two performance metrics that we will use and use very successfully are ACOS and TACOS, which I'm sure you're familiar with. ACOS is...
For anybody that's not, do you mind just explaining what?
Absolutely. Yeah. So ACOS, if I remember correctly, ACOS is advertising cost of sale. So that is a specific metric to your spend in your sponsored ad portal, what sales are brought in, and then it's a percentage of your... So for example, £20 spent, £100 in, that's 20% ACOS. That's a very strong ACOS. It's normally a profit ACOS. If you are trying to really push the channel and your growth is your primary concern, then you can push your ACOS up to 50, even 100%. Some products that are launching in very competitive categories, I mean, the ACOS can go up to 500, 1,000%. We get that shut down very quickly. But for our larger clients, the main focus is on TACOS, which is total advertising cost of sale. So that's your organic sales put together with your ad-generated sales, and then you take off your spend, and then that will give you a percentage, hopefully around 15 to 20%, which is a really good marker of your profitability, assuming you have the gross margin in the product in the first place. And then again, if you want to really push the growth and push the channel, you can increase that up to, some clients will go up to 30% TACOS. But all the while knowing that if they've got strong organic sales, they can strip that back, strip the ad spend down, and then you can, some businesses will work off an 8 to 12% TACOS, and that's extremely healthy.
Well, like one of those things as well where somebody starts out with a high ACOS, and then immediately when they see that their return on ad spend is not great at that point, they start to panic. But then maybe the organic sales will start to fall in a couple of months after that because people have bought the product once, and then maybe they buy another one for a friend, or maybe it's something that's kind of like a subscription-based model if it's cosmetics or supplements or something like that. So the ad spend's high to begin with, but then it starts to peter off, and then they go, oh, it's all right, I'm actually making profit, this is good.
Yes. So this is one of the more difficult conversations with particularly startups if their budget is limited. Look, spend is valuable to any business, but you are right, in a competitive category, month one, you might have to put the ACOS up to 100%. £100 in, £100 in sales back, and you're certainly not winning any profitability awards doing that. However, Amazon is no different to any other channel. It requires initial investment. You have to have a great product. If you have great reviews and your price point is competitive and fair, going back to aligning with the local marketplace, then we can run, for example, revenue trackers on the segments, on competitors, find out what the segments are worth, dollar value, pound value, and give you somewhat of a validation of the process of going on to Amazon. And that makes it a little bit easier to justify that cost at the beginning. But our job as a growth partner to our clients is if we suggest starting at 100% ACOS, which we quite often do, our job is to gather that learning data, crunch it as quickly as we can, and then taper it down to a far more manageable level. So it might be no more complicated than 100, 80, 60, 40 descent. And we'll try and get to around about 25% as quickly as we can.
Would that be like month by month, or is that quarter by quarter?
It really depends. So it's a good question. Ideally, yes, but it really depends on how competitive the category is. And if a product is, if a client product is more expensive than other options, it's going to take longer to because you're going to need to build up more of a customer base.
What the product is and
justify
why the additional expense.
You just fight harder for that sale.
Sure.
So it becomes more complicated. But as I said, growth ACOS can be anything pretty much on the chart. Our job is to try and get that down to a manageable level, and it's normally between 20 to 30%, something like that.
Oh, cool. Well, going back to international expansion a minute, because there was something else which I wanted to mention before. But from your vantage point, what do you have a model that you use to determine if a brand is ready to expand internationally? Is there like a checklist that says, okay, you've done this, you're top of your category in this country, and do you have any immediate examples of maybe clients that have approached you that said that they want to do it, but you've said, hold off for now, come back in 6 months' time, let's see where you are, because maybe they haven't met some of those prerequisites?
Great question. I think the biggest challenge for brands, even established ones, if they have one channel, for example, they're really strong and hot on D2C, they know what they're doing, and they come and say, right, we're ready for Amazon now. My number one question is always, how's your stock management? Do you have enough stock to push out to this channel? Because what ends up happening is, particularly if they're strong in the UK, and then we start sending stock across the US or over to Europe and Germany or France, Italy, Spain, wherever, do they have the stock in the warehouse to feed these other marketplaces? And do they have the operations? Or do they have somebody who has time to arrange these shipments across to these different countries and deal with all the clients, the compliance issues, and then any teething problems? And that's the number one stickler for, as I said, even established brands. They go over, they invest in us as their growth partner and also in the channel. But then we have a good couple of months. We give them projections. We hit those, and then they say, "Oh, the shipment's been delayed, or we've won another order with another major retailer," and then they don't have the stock.
Yeah,
and then that's the cardinal sin on Amazon is to run out of stock when you're on a roll. So if you've invested in the advertising, you've taken up to 100% ACOS, you're at 60, and it's working. You then run out of stock. Amazon will penalize you for running out of stock because you've put the product out, successful launch. They've got Amazon customers that want to buy it, and they can't physically do that.
And there's so many variables in that as well, isn't there? Because how do you know? How do you know how well you're going to do in a new market that you've not expanded into yet?
Absolutely. Again, the validating that process, we can help with that by carrying out research on the segment in whatever marketplace it is. So we can pull off tracker data reports, whether that's Helium 10 or whatever. What's the segment worth in that country? Who are the main competitors? What is the what does the general RP look like? What's your RP? How competitive are you going to be? And then again, do you have the stock that if we put it over and we think it does have legs, are you going to be able to keep up with that demand? But you are right. There is obviously an element of risk in any expansion. But Amazon, with Amazon, you've always got the trust and the fulfillment aspect on that platform that no other platform has. And if you've got a great product, it's reasonably priced, and you've got fantastic reviews that you can carry over to these other marketplaces, then you stand a fair chance if you've got a growth partner that knows what they're doing and will put a process-driven roadmap down for success in that marketplace.
Yeah, 100%. And it's everything that comes along with that as well, isn't it? It's,
yeah,
I've got the idea, this product I think will do well in Germany, and then I can prove that I have the stock for it. Now what do I need to do? Okay, I need to get my VAT registration in that country.
Yeah.
I then might need EPR registrations as well, seeing as Germany in particular has really clamped down on the environmental regulation over there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now that I have that and my products are listed and I know that I'm not going to get delisted because I don't have anything missing from the compliance piece, how do I get my products there? Do I need customs clearance into Germany? Who is going to ship it for me? Am I going to use one of Amazon's customs shipping programs? So as you say, there's a lot of individual pieces that fall in to make that whole picture.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When we were talking about localization, and it's even silly little things that wouldn't necessarily translate, that we maybe don't think about day to day, but you know, somebody who's moving their products maybe from the US and they're really established over there, and then they come to the UK, things like pacifier in the US, we would never use that. It's a dummy over here. But then if it went the opposite way around and you were a UK company that was selling dummies in the US, they'd be like, what are you calling me? It's all about getting your listings right from the front end to make sure that people know what they're actually buying.
Yeah. I think we touched on it. I again, search behavior, big point on that. And then again, making sure that your titles, descriptions are all localized, UK tone of voice, German tone of voice, written by a local person, not somebody from the source company. And then again, aligning with expectations on, you know, your price and compliance, etc.
It makes me think of it doesn't even just have to be the words that are described in the listing as well, because it draws me back to an example of a client which I had that was a US seller that was expanding into Italy, and even the product images that they had, they were selling wine glasses, and the picture that they had was a wine glass that was almost full to the brim of wine, which might work in America, you know, bigger is better, extra large, everything. But then when you go to Italy and you just see like the way they have it, it's just a spit in the bottom.
Absolutely.
And they were using these images and they weren't doing very well.
Yeah.
It was like, why not? I thought they were going to love these type of glasses over there.
Yeah. I can imagine the Italian or French audience wouldn't be loving a pint of red wine. Takes us back to the old student days. But I think you do need to be very careful about how you present products and having local knowledge in whatever marketplace. You need to do a real investigation into who the competitors are in your segment, how well they're doing, and then before you
think that they are doing well as well.
Absolutely. You know, you need to, again, stealing that phrase, reverse engineer the conversion weaknesses. So you'll see the products that are working well. So you'll see the content that they're using, the images, the lineup, how they're taking the customer through the buying journey, and then, you know, what USPs are they leading with, and the titles, what descriptions are they pushing to the top, and then, as you say, videos are a key point of convincing customers, educating them on, you know, what the product is and what it does, its qualities, how to use it, if it's complicated, and then just convincing that customer in that local marketplace to buy your product over one of the competitors.
Yeah, I think videos will become more and more of a integral part of this as well, because
it's huge.
Even if you think back to like the early days of eBay, when people used to have like 3 images and you'd have to pick and choose, like, what can I put up here that's going to give a full understanding of what my product does. Whereas now, when we've got videos on the products, and as we were mentioning earlier about sort of Rufus, there's also Amazon's Creative Cloud, the studio on there, where you can now do like carousels of your product. You can get it so that it shows a full 360 view of it.
Yep.
And then, I know we're going to shift platforms a second, I'm not going to touch too much on it, but things like TikTok live selling, where people go on there and they go, this is a mouse, look at what this mouse does, it's amazing, da, da, da. And it's all about being able to give people a concise, succinct understanding of what the product does, how it's going to benefit you, And I don't think there's anything better than a video in order to do that. So
yeah,
I think it's key that people should be aware of the way that these platforms are changing and the way that we can demonstrate what the product does so that your sales end up increasing from it.
Definitely. You need to know how to harness the powers of TikTok as an Amazon seller and as an e-commerce brand owner. TikTok is phenomenal, as we know, for driving warm traffic to Amazon specifically. How does it do that? Well, TikTok, I'm not actually on there myself, but I know my wife uses it, and from what I've seen, it's there to educate, to demonstrate. It shows you, in fantastic instructional videos, what the product is, what it does, and if somebody is then moving on to Amazon, that's a warm lead, it's a warm audience, and then our main job as somebody controlling that transfer across to the Amazon platform. Where are you going to put them? So controlling that touch point. So you want to be placing them if they've seen a range of products from a brand that they like the look of, placing them on the most popular ASIN, placing them in the storefront, which is all beautifully optimized. It's a high conversion area, keeps the transferred customer there as opposed to going on to one of the competitor things. And knowing how to do that is becoming, increasingly important.
I feel like you see a lot of crossover from that, where people will use TikTok as the discovery tool, but then maybe they won't buy through TikTok yet because they're not.
Yeah,
they don't have that brand awareness, or maybe they don't have the trust in the platform at this point. And I see a lot of it come back from TikTok to Amazon, where it's like, I know these guys have been buying from them.
You've got a Prime account, right?
Yes, so exactly.
You can get it next day. You've had a long relationship, a relationship of trust with Amazon. And you know what you're going to get. And also, that Amazon are very good with returns. If you are not happy with it, there's no quibbles. You can return it.
Yeah, that's key. And that now that we know, obviously, Amazon is increasingly getting more and more crowded and expensive, with things like storage fees, fulfillment fees going up constantly. Are there any specific tools that you use at Jungle that can map out maybe a competitor's weakness and use that as an advantage for your clients?
Sure. So we use a number of tools for our processes to work out, what products are going to work in any given segment. So we will look at competitors and what they're doing well. Again, going back to looking at their search patterns, what keywords are working for them, what space they're controlling. That's a large part of it. But we will also, we will put together our own complicated campaign structures without any kind of influence from competitors. Because, when you know what you're doing and you've got a good system, you might take some inspiration and take note of what other brands are doing. But we know how to build a successful launch, and controlling the search and getting to grips with that is definitely one of the most important things. But again, going back to listings and looking at conversion weaknesses, you look at competitor listings. You can see probably what they're doing well, what gaps there are in the content. Are they not getting? They're not getting across this. They're not getting across that. There's opportunity there. But I think what we do at Jungle, we'll take note of what the competitors are doing, but we will build our own system, our own processes, starting right from the bottom up. You've got to have highly optimized content, whether that's the descriptions, the titles. The creative is key. We're talking about video. Mm-hmm. And if you have a plan and you execute it, you have got a much better chance of success.
And then when you've reached that success and you are a 7 or 8 figure Amazon seller, the general consensus is that you've got to stop outsourcing it to agencies and you've got to bring it all in-house.
Yeah.
So as an agency founder, you're obviously, when you get to somebody who is a really large seller, you're kind of competing against, do I bring it all in-house or do you still use me? So how do you then still continue to justify your own existence in a way?
Great question. So I think it comes down to execution, pattern recognition, and speed. So if you are a brand and you've got to a certain scale, it's always very tempting to bring Amazon and your D2C, so your Shopify in-house, bring one person in to run that. And then why are they going to do that? Well, the obvious factors are that, you may be paying your agency, your growth partner, an awful lot. There's a perceived lack of control, perhaps. And maybe you think to yourself, if we've got an in-house team, we can move faster. I think in reality, and this is just my opinion, but to justify what we do, we are absolute experts in what we do. We stick to Amazon for a reason, because Amazon has so many different components. If you bring in one person, a generalist, let's call them, that has
all trades, master,
that has an understanding of the platform and has an understanding of Shopify. If there is a specific problem on Amazon, and then there's a problem on D2C, do they have enough capacity to deal with that problem, as well as keeping on top of the inventory and all the rest of it? Are they running the PPC campaigns to the best of their ability? Are they maximizing the campaign structure? I don't think so. I think when you bring in a growth partner, you're getting experts who are battle hardened and seasoned. You're not paying for our time. You're paying for our ability to solve problems extremely quickly. And there isn't anything really that you can put on our desk that we can't deal with much faster than the generalist, because we've been there before and we know how to fix that problem.
Yeah.
If you reach a growth plateau, we know what the processes are. We know the formula to get you back up the growth ladder.
Yeah. And you might be able to hire somebody that's got specialized knowledge that, as you say, becomes that generalist, but then what's their capacity? How specialized is it? Whereas if you continue to outsource it to an agency, then that is the bread and butter of what they do. So yeah, I suppose it's everything always comes down to somebody's level of risk averseness as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do you want to put all the responsibility on maybe 1, 2, 3 people as a small team, or do you want the knowledge and expertise of somebody or a company that's been doing it for umpteen years, as you say?
Yeah.
So
absolutely. I think that the brands of all sizes, I've seen, startups that are just at the beginning of the journey, and then, brands that are doing, tens of millions in revenue, but they have small teams and they are too busy with other facets of the business. And Amazon is stressful. Amazon is challenging. And Amazon requires a very high level of expertise. And I think smart founders realize that they are not going to get that with a generalist in the business. And as long as as long as the fee structure is fair, which I think it must be, then it's a relationship that most founders, certainly that I come across, are very happy with, to trust that Amazon channel with this partner, so that they have one less thing to worry about.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I feel like we're just about to wrap it up, and before we do, we always end out with the same question, so let's run through it. But it is, if you were to start an Amazon business this weekend, this is on Thursday, but if you were to start it tomorrow and you'd got no backing, no financial support, you just had to go, right, jungle's finished, I'm going straight into Amazon again, what would you do first?
Very good question. I would. So I have certain emails that come in for emerging trends. I'm always abreast of what the next big product line might be, particularly in the US. And I monitor that stuff a lot. And I'm always aware of probably what trends are hitting. For example, in the supplement space at the moment, electrolytes are riding extremely high. I would be researching the next emerging trend in the US using whatever tools, whether that's AI tools or reading into market trends, retail trends. And then I would thoroughly research the segment in the marketplace. So I would naturally veer towards the UK for obvious reasons because I'm here, and just tick off all the same points of validating the process. Is there a big enough market? Can I get this product at the correct price point? You need to ensure you've got a high margin on Amazon. If it's a specific Amazon product, you have to have a very high margin, else it's not going to work, because the Amazon fees are such that they're going to take so much that I think the referral fee and the FBA fees are somewhere between 30 and 35%. And then you've got all your other costs. But I would be looking out for an emerging trend, look to the US for inspiration, same way that my buddy and I did for the
I was just about to say that. Like the whole conversation in full circle.
Nice very tight round.
Yeah.
They're always 5 years ahead. Sometimes 10. And that's what I do.
Okay, so before we tie it up, obviously we want everybody to know where they can find you and what they might need you for.
Great. So look for us online, Jungle Agency. As we've discussed, Amazon specialists. You can also add me on LinkedIn, Donald Murray. And if you want to discuss anything Amazon related, please get in touch.
It's absolute pleasure, Donald. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for inviting me.
Cheers. See you next time. Thanks a lot, guys.